Hello everybody. This video, it tells a story about me blowing up a Linn amplifier by plugging in a speaker when it was powered on. It destroyed 3 of the amplifier chips, and so I just bought a new Linn amplifier. But then about 3 years later I thought I'll have a look at this one and see if I can fix it. So the first thing I did was try to look at what had been destroyed on the board, and then replace all the components that had been destroyed with new components, and then solder in new amplifier chips and then switch it on. And as you can see now, this is what happens. I tried that several times and couldn't really understand what was making it blow up and catch fire each time, and then I gave up with that approach. I then looked on eBay and saw that you can buy a board with one of these chips on there for only about £16. So I thought it would be a good idea to buy that and then just see if I could get that working. So I bought it off eBay, and when it arrived I unpacked it and plugged it into a power source, and boom, it worked. Great news. So then I looked at that circuit, and it seems to follow the same structure as what it recommends on the board description, on the literature for that chip. So I carefully implemented that little board on my Linn amplifier, and then switched it on, and it worked successfully. It now has 2 channels. One is the original Linn amplifier, the one survived chip. It just works on its own. And the other side is this little board I bought off eBay. The disadvantage of this was that the mute and standby on the Linn side switched the thing off when you depowered stuff about 2 seconds after you switch it off, whereas the other board switched it off after about 6 or 7 seconds, which was a bit annoying. But the other main problem was that the board I'd bought off eBay was quite noisy when you weren't playing anything. So on pause, the Linn side is completely silent, and the non-Linn side, the eBay side I call it, was giving a sort of hiss, like this. I tried to live with that for a while, but in the end I got fed up with it and sort of thought I'll try and solve these 2 problems. So I then took a good look at the Linn board to try and understand why on the Linn side it was silent and on the other side it was not silent. What I noticed was that on the non-Linn side, the input from the sound source goes into pin 3, and the pin 2, which is the negative side of the amplifier input, it basically just goes via a resistor to ground. Whereas on the Linn side it goes via a little circuit which is a op-amp, a TL032C op-amp chip in a little circuit of its own, which you can see here. I thought, well, let's just buy a few of those chips and a few of the amplifier chips and just make a board from scratch with that amplifier on. And so that's what I did. I built this board, which you can see here, just on a breadboard, first of all without the op-amp chip, and switched it on, and it worked, which was great news. And then I built the op-amp chip just on a breadboard and plugged that in and got that working, and managed to silence the hiss using that op-amp board. So I then drew out the electronic page, which I can show you here. So this shows the layout of all the components and their values. And so if anyone else wants to silence the hiss, this is how they can do it. I then went back to the Linn amplifier and started investigating it to see whether the op-amp chip on the Linn amplifier had been destroyed, and luckily for me it hadn't, so I just started hacking away the components on the eBay chip, removing them and wiring in the pin 2 from the Linn board, and that did solve the noise problem, the hissing when it was on pause. And while I was there, I removed all the mute and standby components, a few resistors and a diode, and then just plumbed it in from the mute and the standby pins from the Linn. So now when I switch it on and switch it off, or well, switch it off in particular, the two speakers go off at the same time. And if you press pause on the Linn amplifier, or the input to the Linn amplifier, both speakers are pretty silent. I must admit the eBay side one there's still a tiny hiss, but it's pretty good. It was very much worth doing. Okay, that's it.